bargaining with.
I remember one of the orders that was cut in 1939.
That was before my day.
But I had access to it where there were 60 cranes on order, 10-ton capacity, DC, cab operated.
Yeah.
And guess who bought it? Department of Defense.
Hence,
They knew war was coming.
yeah.
So,
Oh, they were building all the Navy yards and everything up.
oh, it was unreal.
Yeah, we wheels down.
What is worked here during WW2?
Big fire?
How many worked during?
No, 600, I believe, because they ran 3 shifts.
But what is this device right here? Is this a,
That's overhead crane. That was some of the smaller ones we built.
yeah? So that is like a Shepard's crane or?
That would be a Shepard crane. This was the Shepard Electric, that's how old these are.
How many?
Long before Shepard Niles.
Capacity?
Should be right on. 2 or 3 tons?
Yeah, right there, 3 tons.
It is not good for Westchester. We just had to look at the parts to go in the machines, basically.
And Kevin, these are rope operated. See, they're just ropes.
Yeah.
That's why they work. Troy, did Kevin tell you that, and Rick, that their father worked in the Hoist assembly?
We said they worked there for like 45 years or
Yeah.
something.
He was a legend.
Yeah.
A troublemaker.
Yeah, well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree.
You get pretty good operating those ropes too, because when you're trying to get a piece into the chuck on a machine, because when I first came, I worked on a turlet. I got started in here on a turlet. And so
Yeah, you can.
you can't.
Yeah.
Now, that hoist there would be a newer one, because it's got a DC brake on the back end of it.
Of course, one of the great things about a Shepard product is that you couldn't go out and buy anything off the shelf to put on it. You couldn't buy a motor off the shelf to put on it because the motor was part of the hoist. They made the motors here, so the stator was part of the hoist, and they had the market.
Like a monopoly.
They did. You had to come here for a part.
For parts or,
And there weren't that many people that were building overhead cranes and hoists. There was maybe 6. Maybe after the war there was a few more, but then a lot of assembly shops got into the business all over the United States, and we provided fixed crane trolleys and hoists for those people because they didn't want to build them. They would build the structure that they could do.
And of course, up until just a few years ago, well, before, just after I left, these were all windows.
Right.
So that was the only ventilation, the only air you got in here was through the windows.
Really, yeah.
In the summer, it got hotter than hell in here.
I
In the winter,
mentioned
it was just
to-
the opposite.
To Rick,
I've heard that.
my grandfather's house was right across the street, right where the big transformers are. So as growing up, there was an opening there. You could run across the street and see the trains go by. And he also supplied all of the, this was before canteens or machines. He had a building out in back of his house, and there was cookies and candy.
Part of the historical society or whatever. Well, I got a quote I'm trying to get for you. I got a phone call for a quote that I found. Exactly what it was like. I'm trying to get it to the office.
Where was the dumpster that
this whole area over here behind the wall, that was all the tool crib, where they kept all the tools for the different machines, all back in there. So when you had a job, you would come up here and you'd get your drills, reamers, mics, what have you, to do the job. As a young man, when I came in here first on a machine, you just spent time with the tool waiting for the tool.
I'm telling you, boy, that's the tool window. Their shop, they call it. I have to go in here all the time, like when it's dark and early in the morning and stuff on the county. I don't believe in that whole ghost thing and stuff, but I'm telling you, boy, it can almost make a believer out of me. There's a lot of weird sounds and
Creaks and groans
yes,
and moans.
yes, yes.
Well, of course, it's all metal,
Right.
and
right.
so it would be doing its thing with the heat and the cold.
But you know, this shop was kept up well. It was cleaned up. They used to keep it painted, cleaned up good. And so it's one of the best machine shops in the country. They could make and build anything here.
Anything you wanted, and they did. If you needed something, you got it.
But other plants would come here and have you make things for them because we had a complete shop. Every machine, but they're all manual machines. And every operator could read his own blueprints, could set up his own jobs, could run his own jobs. And, yeah.
We just filled that pit there just here a couple weeks ago.
Any reason why?
Well, because they're gonna start tearing it down. And
Oh,
we didn't
so
want
you're-
like a,
yeah.
hazard and stuff
Okay.
for the guys who would be in here.
And as Ed mentioned, we used to make our own motors, copper wire. Ed, you tell them about copper wire. Go ahead. Well, a lot of the copper wire ended up down at the bottom of the lake for trout fishing.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
They used copper here on it.
yeah, pulling copper. I used to do that
We
when
made
I was
we made a lot of reels here, and matter of fact, I have one on my fishing boat that the sides of it came from Schweitzer Aircraft, the aluminum.
Oh, no kidding.
And I wasn't a machinist then, I was foreman, I guess, but they made me one. And,
I had a tractor that was kind of light on the front, so I asked if somebody would make me 30 pounds of weight so I could put on the front of my tractor. And I did it all legit, and when I went to pick it up, painted on it, stolen from Shepard Niles.
This area here was all tool room. This is where they made the tools, ground them, refinished them for the different things that were being made. And back in those days, of course, they didn't have NC or CN machines. So if you had to make a radius, they made a tool that cut a radius, and so on. So, but they made this was all done machine and labor. This whole pile down. I haven't been in here since I left in '87.
I don't know when I left, but I haven't been in here either.
That room there was where we had all our heat treating, and they made cast rotors for motors. Maybe Northwest, and those guys were, this was all heat treating. Storage back here.
Maybe we ought to get you one of them clocks to take home with you.
My job, primarily, sales, was to bring customers through and give them an idea of what we could do. And so, and it was, they were here because they wanted to see the progress of their job.
Okay.
And,
No, they came after they had already ordered something. Did you ever bring?
Oh, well, no, there was people that came in and discussed.
Perspective.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. But they always were very impressed that,
I was gonna say, were they duly impressed?
yes, they were, because it meant an awful lot to them to be able to see what we could do. I mean, especially pour your own motors. It was important.
What was this area here that was so well lit? What was right here?
Heat tree. And they all was really
David, heat tree was here and then this was some storage, basically.
This natural light.
Coal for heat and power.
Yeah, they put the railroad cars.
They had their own, at one time, and that was one of these pads in here, they had their own generators too. They produced their own power at one time.
Yes.
It was long before my time,
Yeah, I imagine it was.
but they did. And big air compressors that sat back in here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I suspect maybe that was one of the reasons for high ceiling, for lifting in.
I would say those conductors are a little rusted up there.
You know, there's actually a couple of those out on a job site. Yeah?
They were just so, used to move everything like hand cars.
The masons up there at the job are doing it, they assume how that building probably as long as one of these or maybe a little longer. It has to be got any hand cars. No, like a couple of these old, they roll. I took a couple of them.
John Tinker would never recognize. They were going on a 4-day week here. It was during a recession. And Shepard didn't lay their people off. What they did is they said, as long as you're willing to do whatever has to be done, we'll keep people up. And so they painted new walls, everybody did anything, fresh floors, did anything in order to have a job. Right. It's like that area back in there, that's where they used to keep all the oil drums, where they had the oil for all the machines. They had barrels back there, they dump it out, take it out in the shop, had a guy, that's all he did is oil the machines. They kept it back there, pollution must be something.
Oh, well, see, that's, yeah, after they tear this down.
I'd hate the thoughts of it.
Yeah.
And all those machines that used to run with oil on them. My department, when I was foreman, started right. Hand chucks, screw machines, bar machines, Potter and Johnson's were over the other
That's
eye.
what they're over here.
Yeah, I had all those. I had 40 guys in my department. And you know, today there's not one of them alive.
Really?
Not one guy was in my department when I was foreman.
That's because you were tough on it.
No, I was young. I was young and they were all older than I. I happened to be at the right place at the right time. Jerry Cornell had a heart attack and couldn't come back. I was the foreman, inspector in the department and lady foreman.
Kevin, did you want to go see the test gallery?
It's down here.
Yeah.
You want those? Huh? Yeah,
Okay, they would be the fluorescent lights. I wonder if they did that to conserve energy? Well, they're closing it off?
I don't know. It was after I left.
Was it really?
We still had.
For years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he was in charge of repairs and that kind. It was right in here that they had that was here.
I knew he was close to the test gallery.
Yeah.
He'd talk about
It was this
that.
area. And shipping and receiving was down here. And all the power saws, when they bring the bar stock in and stuff, it was all over there. They saw all the material up, cut it up into whatever sizes they had to. Then it just moved up the line to the turret lathes, the mills, and so on.
Is the company that's going to tear it down in charge of the big outfits?
Well, I'm not sure exactly. We had, I think there was at least 6 or 7 or 8 maybe. There had to have been 12 guys out here earlier wandering around. You know, so they gotta have their bids turned in by next Friday.
What the hell they do with all this?
Scrap it. Scrap it. Like that crane there, all these cranes here were, I used them all the time, except for that big one there when they finally came and shut that power off in there. It's kind of weird riding that one.
Got stuck out there in the open.
Yeah. Well,
They used that to pick up the hoist, take them over to the test gallery, put them on the bench to be tested. And all the way to do that.
Well, they could handle 5 tons, but to that thing that is 10 tons, is now you're got a lot of load. So they changed the weight so that what is salt.
They tested the hoist twice, if you got there, they'd be painted, half on there. And then load the trucks in,
The biggest crane we built, if you were here, it was a 150-foot crane, which was like 40 tons, with a cab that moved underneath it. You're at Brookhaven National Lab, and it took 9 railroad cars, and Pennsylvania didn't want it. They delivered
really?
it. They delivered it in 5 days.
I had a picture of that, Dave. I don't know if Andrew's got it. or
Yes,
not.
he does. He's got some real nice pictures.
I gave him some that Charlie Lackman gave me.
Yeah.
It was Jack Sims and I, so on, were standing next to, he had 3 railroad cars, flatbeds, for 1 girder. You know,
Really?
bolstered on both ends. And they, like Dave said, it took 6 cars just for the 2 girders. And special, when they went down the track, there was nothing else could be around.
yeah.
Yeah, everything had to be cleared.
Everything had to be cleared when they went down.
The other thing I think that I remember being in sales most of the time was that we built specialty equipment. We built round trolleys,
Yeah, we did.
a hoist for 3 hoists for someplace up in New England where they did shot blasting. So they'd pick up this huge section of metal and then they would rotate it so that it could be shot blasted. A lot of stuff for the nuclear industry.
A lot of stuff was standard, an awful lot, standard parts went on the
But the
shelf.
fun was to sell the special ones. And
It was fun to build, especially after these guys tried to get me in. Then they'd give me hell because
that
I
wasn't
didn't
my
get,
problem.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that,
then they'd give me hell out here because I didn't get it shipped on time because they were still engineering it while we were trying to ship it. I don't want to walk up on a fence.
I had a guy that worked in the bridge shop who loved to see me come in with a customer. And he'd leave his workspace and he'd come over and he'd say to the customer, "Did Dave come across the bridge all right? He drinks a little bit, you know." And it was kind of funny, but I got tired of it. So one customer who bought a lot of hoists from us, I said, "You see that guy coming? He's going to harass me. I want you to say to him, get back to your workplace." So Bill comes over and he started, and this guy said, "Wait a minute. I'm waiting for a delivery of 3 hoists here. Shouldn't you be working?" He didn't know what to do. He left. He never bothered me again.
yeah, just be careful up there, guys.
not too safe up there. The floors all buckled up.
They also, Kevin, were spread out up here, there were holes. This was the top. No. There weren't many accidents, were there?
No, you know, guys were well trained as they came up through, and yeah, normal cuts and stuff like that. Nothing, no serious injuries. I can't remember anybody seriously injured.
My dad started to work on the test gallery. He was an 18-year-old from New Jersey, quit school in his senior year. His mother was a school teacher in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And he came up here because somebody said, you probably can get work. A bunch of them lived in a house because they were all being trained. So he started here and then,
Well, they trained all their own people.
yeah.
And so it's, you know, the old timers taught all the young guys trades, and they worked you up through, and they promoted from within. Because I started here as a young kid out of high school, and I went in service. When I came back out, Ralph Lunger was superintendent, and he wanted me to go to night school. I said, what the heck's that going to get me? He says, well, nothing if you don't do it. so I started going to night school and so on, and you worked your way up. I was foreman, assistant superintendent. I was going to be with him for a year.
Did he die?
He died within 3 months. And so here I was, a young kid, plant manager. Everybody was older than I was. That first year, Herb Gledhill was president. And Herb put me in as superintendent. And he left me alone. He didn't look over my shoulder the whole year. He left me alone.
Well, Herbie wouldn't have done much.
Well, the union tried me, you know, and everybody else, you know, they all tried to take advantage. But I was a red-headed Irishman. I'm not red-headed anymore, but I still had the Irish. But you know, I survived that first year. And after that, it got better, except for trying to make.
What year was that?
67.
Okay, because I was here in 66.
67.
This
when
happened,
and that was just before the Brookhaven lab, because
Right.
that was because Ralph Lunger was always worried about how that was going to get out of here, and also about the office, how that office was going to work down there instead of being over here. He worried about that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was at the same time,
Yeah.
and so
Dave, you mentioned New Jersey. Who was the guy that worked here that was the boxer from New Jersey?
I have no idea. Is somebody your father knew?
Yeah, he was the guy, they nicknamed him the Bayonne Bleeder. And he worked here summers.
Only your dad would know
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Well, he's the Wepner, Chuck Wepner. Chuck Wepner was a boxer and worked here summers. And he's the guy that was beaten in a televised match, and a guy named Sylvester Stallone watched it on an 8-inch TV and went and grabbed a yellow notepad and started writing a movie called Rocky. And Chuck Wepner inspired
Are you sure
that.
your father didn't make that up?
No, that's a true story, because I've seen that in print. I've seen that one in
you think
print.
Joe would have made up those two?
No. Well,
He was related, Wepner was related to somebody here, right?
Yeah,
Parinko.
yeah.
Bill
oh,
Parinko.
wait a minute.
He was
Ed,
He was a nephew of Bill Parinko, and he
stop.
he was in trouble. You know, he had to get out of New Jersey.
Ed,
Yeah, oh yeah, real.
Kevin's got the real story about his father.
It was Parinko
Parinko, yeah.
was related to Wepner.
Wepner was a nephew or something, and Wepner had to get out of New Jersey for some reason or other, so he came up here. Parinko got him a job for the summer until the heat was off.
That would have been the father of the Rinka.
Once upon a time,
I think probably a lot of people wound up here maybe under those conditions.
I didn't. The railroad, though, you spoke about this, the railroad, they just had big carts. They would put things on it coming up, and they'd wheel it over here so it came on the crane. And, but the railroad came right down along the back.
Right.
They brought in coal and so on down back.
Pullman Standard bought hoists in lots of 20, and they insisted that their hoist be shipped in a boxcar, Pullman Standard, which was tough to load.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, but that's
Used
the
to-
way they
Of
wanted
course,
it.
over across,
Yeah,
they came in, switched in there all the time. It was- Back in, when I first came here, the Erie and the Lackawanna, Erie and Pennsylvania, Erie and Pennsylvania, went through here with coal trains. And when they'd go through, things would just rock. Then they'd have to go through, every machine had to be reset up because it would change, the dimensions would change.
you're on a swamp.
Yeah.
So, but when they go through here, they rock in the doggone building and shake and stepped on the pedal here, got water.
Yeah.
With a coal train, because they're during, all hours of the day and night.
The remarkable thing that I always thought about is that 10 tons and 10 tons, the bigger cranes couldn't come back because they're in the high bay. And they moved these down this line. And that to me, I didn't see how the hell they did it.
And of course, later on, in the later years, they keep sandblasting.
What was the biggest girder?
Biggest one that, in length, 150 foot. It wasn't the largest capacity girder, but it was the largest girder in length, 150 foot, for Brookhaven Lab.
Now, NASA bought a lot of cranes too, didn't
Well,
they?
they bought some. I don't, David can tell you more about that. They used to make these big welded girders in here.
Building a house, so he's not.
Where, what was, do you remember,
Yeah, we
this
store a
sticks
lot of
in my
stuff
mind
this one.
was
You do? Well,
Checkpoint Charlie.
probably the one that's,
Do you remember
The
that?
center of this,
Well, I've
the
heard of
center,
it,
the whole
yeah.
center of this is still
Well,
dry.
they had a
It's the sides that are
spot,
falling
I don't know
down.
whether it was going through the machine shop, and they had a sign that said that area you were on the west side now, or on the east side.
Could be, I don't know.
when we bought Cleveland Tramrail that we mentioned before, they used beams that would come from actually
Netherlands.
overseas.
Netherlands.
Netherlands, right. And they came in 60-foot lengths, various sizes. And then we set up along that wall, was it not?
They,
A little bit further down?
Yeah.
Where we cut them and
right, it was down
shaped
for,
them and so on.
we built the big racks out there for all the different sizes. They used to make, well, a lot of, like trolleys, the trolley frames and all that stuff over there. The tram rail was pretty much from the center aisle on down.
Now, this building in phase 2 they're talking about, if they get to do that from like right here where it goes out,
Yeah.
from there, this way is all coming down.
Which we're gonna leave the high bay up?
The 2, yeah, from right here,
Yeah.
that way,
Of course, that's the newer part.
yeah. But this is, I mean, the center still is all dry, it's just still, you can see the sides are.
Well, that was the first building, wasn't it, Ed? Wasn't this the first Shepard Electric building?
The very first building that I told about was a machine shop itself.
Oh, okay.
And the pictures that I've seen is this. This is your machine shop. This was the first.
Okay,
Because before they started building cranes, they were building
just hoist.
smaller stuff.
Yeah.
But this was the first building,
Yeah.
then the print shop was behind it.
Did NASA buy a lot of
They did,
cranes?
yeah. Actually, the nuclear industry we supplied a lot of specialty hoists with them because nobody wanted to do what we could do. They had to be sandblasted in special paint, and our painters did not like it. So we used to contract people to come in at night and paint them.
I remember that there was a picture one time in the Watkins Review that showed that it was Shepard's hoist that lifted the A-bombs to the top of the towers out in New Mexico.
That's an old picture, yeah.
This would have been the office for the, yeah. That's some big machines in here. That's a big unit. They couldn't handle the stuff over at the machine shop. They brought the big pieces over here, the big frames. Huge big drum over the shop.
I think the thing that always fascinated me, and anybody that worked here, was they pick up a girder, come off this way, and two cranes would handle it, and those guys never, it was just automatic.
Well, they were masters.
They knew it. And
They could drop those things in fractions of an inch, you know.
And in order
Trying to
to
sit
get it
them
on
on
a
to fit
railroad
things.
car, and because most cranes like these have walkways on them, the bigger ones, okay? So they had to roll the girder. What do you say? Roll it. How did they do that? So they picked it up, and with the chains, they would inch it over and whoa, drop it. Drop.
On its side.
Or get it on its side so they could put it on the railroad car. Those chains would just shake and rattle. I was always impressed by that.
Well, they were masters.
And of course, the bells rang and bang, but most people knew it was normal.
Right.
They were so used to the folks knowing what they were doing is all the things that they were.
You were the John Tomasi.
Yeah. He's living in Florida with a new
Big Don
girlfriend.
eat all the time.
Huh?
He always picked on me.
Well, so did Dominic.
Oh, yeah. They always had a lookout, so when I was coming across the railroad track, they always knew in this building when I was gonna get in here. At least that was my,
It's not that they didn't trust him.
Right.
We had to do something the boss was showing us.
That's right.
These are their concrete blankets. We use them when they pour concrete stuff in the wintertime. Yes, yes.
boy, did we get there.
Wasn't much of a walk.
Well, you weren't supposed to, well, it's not a very big walkway, but you weren't supposed to get out of the crane. You were supposed to come down the ladder ones. If you were sitting there, you had a load on it. You just kind of sitting in there waiting for the, painted or whatever they were doing. She got out one.
Oh, no, show us here.
Got it, yeah. Did we get David?
Yeah, this building here, that's what I see on the picture here goes.
Yeah, we took that out. right out here. When they get one all done, everything's done, they mask it off, they paint it. And, of course, you shouldn't do that today because of the pollution. But
Oh, yeah.
back in those days, they painted them right out here in the floor. Guys would be building cranes, working on them right here next to them. And the thing is, most of those guys all lived to be right old ages, you know, they didn't die of lung cancer.
What type,
I thought, Dave, about the asbestos, because we had all our brake linings were asbestos
Until
until they stopped.
they stopped doing
But
those,
then
they
we
stopped
had,
making it.
then all the stuff in the motor department in the control area, asbestos.
now these cranes hanging on the walls down here,
Are
what,
called wall cranes,
okay,
Just like it looks.
just like
Okay.
they are.
and they would sell those to a lot of different, you know, companies
It
because,
wasn't, it wasn't a big thing, but it allows you to have multiple, well, there's 3 of them. And I think that's all there is, just on that side. But it allowed pick up small parts and run, well, the whole length. It's a unique thing. The Navy Yard used to have hundreds of those.
Well, it saved down a big beam.
The birds still like them.
You come in here, like on a rainy day, first thing in the morning, well, even any day, on the first thing in the morning, it's like a bird sanctuary.
Before the tram rail, all the big Niles cranes over in that other corner. You snow and they build it over there, and they built the stackers over there.
That's why we had to build that high crane. That's only 10 ton, isn't it, Ed? I can't
Not
see
very
it.
big.
Huh?
Not very big, they just need the heights for stackers and
Yeah.
hot metal carriers.
That's another thing that we built that not too many people did is hot metal carriers for the automotive industries, where they poured, that was ductile iron and gray iron. And these were units that would run on Seneca Engineering monorails with a guy in a cab and a ladle in front of him. And
You go to the cupola, they dump the load from the cupola into the bucket.
And there were occasionally accidents that somebody didn't do something right. It's a lot of hot metal.
We made a huge amount of those for, what was it, for, over in Italy,
Fiat.
Fiat. We made a whole bunch of them. And Marsh and some of those guys spent months over there getting those things, getting that system going. I remember building those. But I remember when this building was built, this part here. They had
So how new is this one?
well, it was probably in the 70s. It was probably in the 70s, I'd say.
That sounds about right.
Because it was built after I came in as plant manager. But here was the only place you were supposed to go down. We were supposed to be walking those walkways while the crane was in use and being held up.
Now, Rick, if you'll go up and look at the nameplate on this crane right above you, see it says 20-ton Niles crane.
they were the heavier duty.
That's right. They were built in Philadelphia before Shepard bought the Niles division. That's how it ended up as
They were a specialty.
Shepard Niles.
Everyone was different. Sales never sold the same one twice.
That was the fun of it. I keep telling you that.
I remember
I don't know why he wasn't happy with it.
Carl Leslie was sales up in the Buffalo area, and we built one for them, for a Lackawanna Steel, I think it was. And the crane got stuck over the cupola when the cupola opened, and the fire came up underneath it and cooked the thing. And Carl got me up there to go up on that to look it over to see how fast we could make new drums and new stuff for that. That was about the scariest I think I ever went up on any of them, but that was right over the cupola itself. There it sat. They couldn't move it. It was
There's also a lot of equipment that was built during the war for like the Watervliet Arsenal up in Watervliet, New York. huge. We didn't build the big ones, but Shepard Niles had a lot of cranes there, and they were way up. Ross Fowler took me on a training mission once, and they had, well, grading like that. And I got up there and had to step over to where the crane was. I couldn't. I locked up. And Ross said, come over, just take that one step. And no, I'm not going to.
They used to, even though I was in manufacturing, they used to take us out to all the sales offices. I remember going to Cleveland, went to see Van in Pittsburgh, or in Philadelphia.
They wanted to educate you.
Yeah, they sure did. They wanted to try to brainwash you.
What was this little area right in here? Is there anything
Start
special?
over and so on.
Yeah.
For big beams, great big 12 by 12s and stuff that they would put, set the girders down on, but it all came in here.
Is that there something that you guys made?
Beats me.
On the floor? No,
I don't think it looks like anything I ever saw.
No?
no. No, all of our stuff, Troy, was up.
Yeah.
A lot of people confuse you, say cranes, or they think of like the CP Ward.
Right, yeah.
That's how we use.
Well, we made some gantries off the floor.
Yeah, but I mean, still,
Yeah,
we had rails.
they ran off the rails. Well, that would be like a little forklift that
Yeah.
somebody made. It wasn't us.
Still runs.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
We had a lot of forklifts here, especially in later years. Used to have the ones that you pumped up and you
Yeah.
had the forks went out and you pulled the loads with it.
Oh, Cal Jack?
Yeah.
That sounds like a fairly large bird. Egret?
Starling?
Grackles, probably.
Yeah, starting.
Oh.
See how nice and bright this is with all the windows? That's the way the machine shop used to be before they boarded the side of it up.
Over there, you mean?
Yeah, you can see in there,
What was the purpose of that?
heat, I guess, probably energy, and static, to make it look better on the outside.
Yeah, they did it all the way down.
They did all the way down.
All the way to the
They made it,
stockroom.
they made it. Found it out here. then
Somewhere.
this big crane. Well, there's one of the stanchions.
Are you associated with the Star Gazette?
Not really.
There's the other, this big crane.
New York
ran down
Times?
through there, pick all that stuff up and send it in.
They're not listening to you.
The Monterey media.
And neither is your brother.
Was this built probably in the early 60s, I think?
No, it was built, probably mid-60s. I think it was built before I came in. But, because the pattern shop used to be over here. They moved it over here. They had some fabulous guys that make patterns.
It's an art. It's an art.
Yeah, Lynn Reynolds was one out. He was in charge. He eventually became in charge of the department. Roy Dimmick, Gagnon. I forget some of the others that were in there. But made all our own patterns for all the castings that we made.
Oh, that's right. My car's over there.
You're over here.
No, I was.
Oh, you've moved it over?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, we can talk about that.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this building was connected, they brought stuff from when Elmira had the flood.
In 1972, they had the flood in Elmira, and it flooded, the city was badly. And Chemung Foundry was part of our operation. They made all of our gray iron castings. And so they had water, 10, 12 foot high in that foundry. So they were out of business. And
Well, we salvaged all the patterns,
Yeah.
didn't we?
I talked to the union that we were going to have to, we'd have to lay some people off because we weren't going to have enough castings to keep us going, unless they wanted to cooperate. And so our maintenance people, I took our whole maintenance force. We got permission from the police and permits to get in the city of Elmira. And we would go up, and it was one-way traffic getting in there. Took all our maintenance people up. Montour Fire Department sent a pump. It was on a trailer up there. We went up, and in 2 weeks, had the foundry back in operation. They poured iron on the floor in 2 weeks. You couldn't use patterns or anything, but they just poured iron to get the cupola dry. And it was the first place in Elmira was back in business. But our maintenance people all went up there and got that place going, brought every motor that they had on every piece of their equipment down here. In the motor department, we had the motors all in big bins in water, kept them in water until they could dry them out and redo them. And all the patterns were wet. We brought them down here and they redid them. So this operation here for about a month did nothing but work to get Chemung Foundry back in business so that we would stay in business. And so it was a fabulous job that those guys all did. But and I don't know how many trips I made down there. Potter was the head of the foundry, and all the drawings were wet. We had all new drawings made for them. You know, we just put them back in business. And those guys, most of them that worked at the foundry, all had been damaged by the flood, so they were glad to see our people come in and do their work and get them back in business.
Well, they didn't put them inside, no, they just outside. They just parked them out back and stuff. Yeah, long time, long time.